Blue 22.
You are watching Sports and Sorts live on YouTube. That's 75% sports, 25% sorts. And here are your hosts, Shane and the Bry Man.
All right, we are back. I am Shane.
I'm the Bry Man.
And this is Sports and Sorts. We got episode 293 or something like that. We got a lot to talk about today. We are going to get into the NFL draft. We're going to go over our best and worst of this year's NFL draft. We will also get into the state of the streaking Yankees in a good way. The hot streaking Yankees have won 9 of their last 10. And are currently sitting in first place. We will get into that. Probably not too deep because it's still very early in the season. There's still issues.
9 wins. 9 wins.
And
there was a lot of Ferris Bueller stuff going on yesterday on Twitter in Yankee land.
I'm sure.
In the Yankee Twitterverse. 9 times, and they were like 9 times. 9 times.
So we'll get into that. We're also going to do our Lethal Weapon recast, where we will pick probably about a handful of guys and ladies to
well,
recast.
yes and no. Actually, I think we're going to be. I'm quite pleased with this because I know for a fact that you and I pick some different characters to recast, but I will drop a little bit of we'll get more into that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't even remember because I haven't watched the movie in such a long time. How relevant of the therapist was in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
So that could be a good recast.
Yep.
There's several ones that you could recast here. And I picked, a handful. I'm sure you picked a handful, and we will get into those in a little while. I really like my picks. I haven't fully settled on my Mel Gibson yet. I could be swayed with my Danny Glover pick just because for whatever reason, I might just change my mind at the last second. Right now, I like it, but I don't love it, so I may switch.
All right. It's a game time decision.
It's a game time decision for sure. There's other ones that I'm like, yes. Those are the ones. But all right, so let's get into today's show. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to cover. We will get into our first little topic here, and that is going to be the NFL. All right, but first, hit that subscribe button, smash it, slap it, flip it, rub it down, smack it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Do it all. We appreciate it. NFL grades. Who do you think? It doesn't have to be, because there was a lot of teams out there that probably deserved an A. It was a draft this year that I think just set up really well for some teams, and a couple of teams did really well. A couple of teams that you probably thought should do well, even though they haven't typically drafted well in the past, did pretty well. I think you should probably touch on your Miami Dolphins briefly. Give a brief grade.
Well,
what you liked on. Not yet. In a second. Maybe at the end, because I'm sure they're not going to get an A. But they might. You might think they get an A or an A plus. But we will. We'll get into that, and I will touch on the Bills briefly as well. Okay. If they, maybe they'll make my A. I don't know. Maybe they'll make my number one.
Well, I'm just going to do a best and worst, and then I'll touch on the Dolphins, and you could do a best and worst and touch on the Bills.
Sounds great. All right. So who do you have today for your NFL's best draft? Because I think the worst for me is going to be I think very obvious, and it's been kind of trending that way for a while. But go ahead.
Philadelphia Eagles, for me, had the best draft. And you know why I really liked it? It was a nice blend of Howie Roseman kind of saying, fuck them picks, but at the same time, using the picks that he had to upgrade the team in areas of need. And really, I think setting the team up for some long-term success. So first, right off the bat, he traded his top pick to the Titans for wide receiver A.J. Brown. So you have a young quarterback you're trying to develop, Jalen Hurts. Dolphin fans, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're trying to develop this young quarterback. You're trying to put the best possible pieces around him to make him succeed. So what's the best thing you can do? Last year, out in the first round, you went and you drafted Devonta Smith. Good start. Now you trade for an established top 10 receiver, in my opinion. In
He's
A.J.
a legit
Brown.
one.
And a beast of a man, too. Strong, physical, proven guy. And in his prime, I have to question what the Titans were doing here.
A.J. Brown is very much like a Terrell Owens, kind of like just built, strong. Might not be quite as fast.
I would say a slightly poor man's version of T.O. T.O.'s a top 5 receiver. So,
as far that's what I meant. I'm not saying he's T.O. He's a copy of him. So it's kind of,
which is not a bad thing.
No, I mean it's guaranteed Hall of Fame. I mean,
it gets watered down when you become like a copy of a copy of a copy.
Right.
But to just be a copy of T.O., not a bad thing.
Not bad.
But what I don't understand is if you look at the contract that the Eagles gave him, are you telling me the Titans couldn't have swung that? They could not have swung that deal? First of all, it's like $100 million deal. Half of it is funny money because I think only like $52 million of it is guaranteed. I would like to know how bad the Titans salary cap situation is that they couldn't do that, unless he just didn't want to be there. And he was like, I'm not going to sign regardless of what amount you give me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with Ryan Tannehill anymore.
It seems like everybody else is having no problem moving around their cap and making funny money work.
Because the cap is kind of it's bullshit.
Right.
It's a farce.
But apparently,
it's a scam.
Apparently the Titans don't want to kick the can down the road. Like that's
right. I guess they don't. Or again, for whatever odd reason, they just didn't like him. Now, the Titans went and immediately took that pick and they drafted his replacement in Treylon Burks. Okay, fine enough. But anyways, let me get back to the Eagles. So right off the bat, you made a significant upgrade with a proven commodity in moving your draft. Okay. But then you took a really good, in my opinion, second round center in Cam Jurgens, who I think will absolutely be taking over for Jason Kelce next year, which is good. You're thinking down the road and you're improving the offensive line, and the center is an extremely important position. You found your guy. And then they had a defense that was already pretty decent. I think it was 10th ranked last year. And they added two guys from Georgia that I really like. One, a mountain of a man in Jordan Davis, defensive tackle. And then a guy who fell and fell and fell, and he just kept falling, and I don't know how. And I don't think he would have gotten past the Dolphins, if we're being totally honest, because the Dolphins ended up taking a Georgia linebacker with their third-round pick. But he didn't quite slip to the Dolphins, but he did slip to the third round, and that's Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, again, look, what the scouts have and the teams have versus what the media has, of course, it's always very different, right? But Nakobe Dean had a first-round grade in a lot of mock drafts. A lot. I mean, he was considered to be a late first rounder, like no worse than a second rounder. He dropped to the third round. Supposedly it has a lot to do with medicals, but we'll see. But bottom line, you took care of your young quarterback, Jalen Hurts. You already had Devonta Smith last year. Now you've added A.J. Brown. You're protecting him on that line with a new center who's going to take over for Jason Kelce. And then you bolstered an already good defense with Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. I really like what the Eagles did. I think this was a strong draft. Look, the easy answer is the Jets, which is why I didn't go with it, because the Jets, it's painfully obvious, unfortunately, as a fan of a team in the AFC East, that the Jets had the best draft. I mean, they knocked it out of the park. They knocked it out of the park in terms of, I think, what
Well,
certainly in
we
terms
can get
of
into
what
my
the
best
media-
because my best is definitely the Jets.
Well, then go right ahead.
So, because, I mean, in my opinion, in their first 3 picks, I felt like those were all top 10 picks. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson, I think were all, in my opinion, could have very easily gone in the top 10. And they got him 4, 10, and 26th. And then on top of that...
It's impossible to argue.
And then on top of that, in the 4th round, they get the best running back on the board, Breece Hall.
Yeah, I was pissed about that.
And then in their 5th round, they fortify their blocking a little bit by getting a tight end that can block.
Yep.
So they have upgraded significantly on defense. They have upgraded significantly on offense. Because they got an edge rusher with Jermaine Johnson. They got cornerback who's potentially a lockdown corner.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, one of the best receivers in the draft. Breece Hall, one of the best running back in the draft.
Yep.
Tight end, good blocker / receiver.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, with those top 5 picks, I cannot argue that they just absolutely destroyed this year's draft on paper. It was incredible.
Right, on paper. Yeah.
I can't. All of those players that signed this year have to be so incredibly amped up. They have such a young core of real good position players, like your cornerback, who is, cornerbacks kind of make a name for themselves in the league. Wide receivers, they are like the up and coming of all and everything right now in the NFL. You have an edge rusher, very important in the league. You have a running back, not as important as it used to be, but still very important in the league to have a good running back. And then you have a tight end who's also young, who can help you get those 3rd down conversions and also help your quarterback stay protected in the pocket. So, like, I just look at that draft and I'm kind of like, that's as close to an A+ as I feel like you could get.
Yeah.
And that's not even looking at their 6th and 7th picks. I don't even care. Because when you start getting that low in the draft, it's really more of a crapshoot than anything else. But I feel like their top 5, you could say that those are absolutely the best 5 picks in the draft this year.
Yeah. Yep.
It's incredible.
And this kind of transitions sort of well, I think, into the team that I think may have had the worst draft, because I think the Jets, I don't want to get too out of control here, but it is possible that the Jets have now possible on paper maybe, that they have passed the team that I think had the worst draft,
Please be
which is the New England Patriots.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the order is kind of clear with the top 2 in the AFC East. I think it's clearly Buffalo 1, and I think it's clearly Miami 2. And then from there, it's sort of it's a toss-up. It's much more of a toss-up than it was going into the weekend, because I would have had Patriots 3, Jets 4, and now I'm not so sure anymore. The Patriots did, and this grade for the Patriots, which is really like a D in the draft, but that's kind of also an indictment on the team in general this offseason, which has done nothing to improve itself.
Right.
I'm sorry. The New England Patriots in the post-Tom Brady era are looking very, very mortal. Bill Belichick is looking very human these days. And I'm not impressed with anything they did in this draft. Now, first of all, the Patriots were also in that kind of really funky spot too, right? Yeah. Where it's like they drafted like the early 20s.
They have a crap load of picks, but they're all like in weird spots.
They were a playoff team. They were a playoff team, right?
Yeah.
But not a good playoff team. No. A playoff team that got absolutely humiliated in the first round by the Bills.
Lucky to get in the playoffs.
And I'm not so sure it did them any good, because it didn't help them in terms of having a higher draft pick. Now, admittedly, this is probably one of the worst drafts I've ever seen in terms of talent. This was not a great draft. But if you look at what the Patriots did in this draft, so they took a
clip with McVay and the other guy, I can't remember what his name is.
Basically laughing. Yeah. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So anyways, they took Tyquan Thornton was the guy they took in the 2nd round, and then they took Marcus Jones in round 3 and Jack Jones in round 4, because they're trying to replace J.C. Jackson, which good luck. I don't know how you replace arguably the best cover corner in the league with just a bunch of rookies. But the first round pick of Tennessee Chattanooga offensive lineman Cole Strange was, pun intended, strange, because that guy had like a third, fourth round grade, maybe. Very peculiar, to say the least, to take that pick at that spot.
I know. You think you would have been able to get like maybe a little bit better of a wide receiver in the first round and then go with him in the second if you want to reach? I don't know.
The problem is, so this was a decent draft for receivers, but it was very top heavy.
Yeah.
Because there were kind of like 3 tiers to it, but then once you got out of that third tier, the bottom fell out and there wasn't really much of a fourth tier. And actually, by the point that, although I'm trying to think, I feel like the Patriots could have had at least maybe one guy, but I don't know. Yeah. So like they took that guy, Tyquan Thornton, whatever. But again, that was, whatever, that might've been the second round.
I can't really say they've ever truly valued receivers that much.
No,
I mean, yeah, they
really
got Randy Moss for a little while, but they didn't win a Super Bowl with him.
They didn't win a Super Bowl with Wes Welker either.
And they got people like Welker and Edelman and guys like that came in and
they won with.
Right, but they made a name for themselves in that system.
Yes.
Welker was not really good until he had Peyton Manning throwing to him, because Peyton Manning was obviously, when you have a quarterback of that caliber, it's a little different. Yeah.
So, I mean, and then they took, like in the fourth round, I think they took the record-setting QB there from Western Kentucky. His name was Bailey Zapp. Big numbers, tons of numbers. This is not a typo, by the way. He had almost 6,000 yards and 62 touchdowns in 2021. So he's just like one of those, Western Kentucky, kind of slinging the ball all over the place, kind of, whatever.
How many picks did he have?
I don't actually know, but from what I understand, the numbers are more impressive than it could have been. So that's a bad draft. That's a D minus kind of draft, to be honest with you. And coupled with the really bad offseason that they had, which they didn't really add any talent. They spent all that money last year. They got to the playoffs. So they were 10-7. They got to the playoffs and they got completely spanked by the Bills. Mm-hmm. And now they're paying the price for all of that money they spent last year, because now, as it always happens with the salary cap, it's not the first year that hits you, it's the second.
Yeah, you're kicking the can down the road.
Right. But when you spend the amount of money that they spent last year, and they made some bad signings last year, and now they're going to pay for some of those in blood, because I don't think that's a playoff team. I'm sorry, I don't. And I'm sorry, your quarterback, in my opinion, is the worst quarterback in that division, because I think I would take long term. I would take Zach Wilson.
I guess we have to see what Zach Wilson becomes, because as of right now, Mac Jones is a better fit for that system.
He fits the system fine, but there's nothing special about him.
No.
Even by his own admission, there's nothing special about him. He even said he's on record as saying there's a reason why I was sitting behind Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama. Yeah, because Tua was better, and Tua is still better. And you're going to find out. All the haters are going to find out this year. Oh, you're going to find out. And I'm not, me, I'm not a very cocky Dolphins fan. It's not my thing. Arrogance is not usually my thing when it comes to my sports teams. But I'm telling you right now, Tua is going to prove, there's going to be a lot of eating crow after this season.
If he doesn't perform with this crew.
Because one thing's going to happen. Out. There's going to be people like me who are going to eat crow and say, you know what, we were wrong. Tua wasn't the guy. Or there's going to be the others who were wrong, and they're going to have to say, or they won't though. Most of these people don't have any backbone. They're all spineless. There's no accountability. They'll just be like, oh, well, the only reason he got better was because Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle in his second year. And you had to surround him with all these weapons for him to get better. Well, that's usually how it works in the NFL. The quarterback can't just do it on his own. Generally speaking, the quarterback does have weapons. So, but bottom line, Patriots. And and that's the other thing. Mac Jones is limited. So you need to get a guy who's limited like that, much more talent around him. Their wide receiver room, the best wide receiver they have is a guy that would have been the fifth receiver on the Dolphins in Devontae Parker. Or the fourth. All right, if we're being honest, probably the third or fourth. Because it's clearly 1 Hill, 2 Waddle, and then you could make the argument Parker over Cedric Wilson. I would take Cedric Wilson just because he's younger, and doesn't have the injury history. But you could make the argument that, in terms of obviously NFL tenure and accomplishments, Parker would have been the third best receiver on that Dolphins team. Okay. So you took the third best Dolphin. And by the way, what does that tell you? That a team within your own division was willing to trade you a guy and they had no fear of him going to your team. Mm-hmm. Tells you a lot. So that's where I'm at. Okay, go with your worst, and then we'll do our assessments for our own team.
My worst is, like I said at the beginning, that this is. I mean, you could pick from a few teams. I mean, the Saints didn't have a great draft. The Patriots didn't have a great draft, and the other team that I don't feel like had a very good draft is a team that I feel like has been kind of trending in this way for years now, and it's the Seattle Seahawks. I really, really dislike their draft. I do like the running back they selected is the guy that I wanted on my Buffalo Bills. But I'm also very happy with who the Buffalo Bills picked as far as like a scheme fit goes. But Charles Cross, good first pick. But then after that, you got Kenneth Walker in the third round. That's decent. But like everybody else, really, I'm just not very impressed with. And I feel like, Pete Carroll and everybody in Seattle has just really taken that team from what they were, which was an incredible defensive team with a super stud young quarterback and then had a good running game and then kept on trying to do that even though the league moved away from it. And they didn't really keep up on their defense. And their quarterback was getting more frustrated every year after year after year. And Pete Carroll just does not. He's digging his heels in the sand. And it gets to a point where I just feel like they really, really dropped the ball. I think that they're going to have... I obviously think that this situation that they're in right now, they are playing for the draft next year. I think they're trying to be in the lower end so they can have a top 10 pick next year and get somebody... one of the newer quarterbacks that's coming out that's going to be touted. So that's the sad thing when I think that was the best part of their draft is that they're tanking for next year.
Yeah. And also avoid Baker Mayfield. Don't go down that road. Yeah.
You don't want to. I mean, unless it's like a 1-year deal and then you're just going to try and flip them for picks. But I just don't see what you could get for him. Because it's not like he's a top 10 guy,
If you're Cleveland, I don't know why you wouldn't just take anything for him, to be honest. I really don't. I mean, you've got your quarterback now. And although, look, Baker has already said that even if Deshaun gets suspended, and even if he's suspended in the worst case scenario for like a year, Baker's not playing for them. So
yeah,
your backup is which is actually their backup is Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. So. Which
really stinks for the Browns because that puts them in a situation where they can't get anything for him.
And you know what? Deshaun Watson's getting suspended. That's happening. How many games? I don't know. If I had to guess 8. If I had to guess 7
it's going to be 8. I would think 8 to 10, but yeah.
It's not going to be the year.
It's not going to be the full year. No.
They will not. They will not do.
They'll have them as long as they're playing well enough and they can get to the
playoffs.
And the
NFL justification will be, well, they couldn't find any. They didn't find enough evidence to charge them criminally. So how could we justify a full 17 game season?
Just putting yourself in that situation, not a good look. So we'll suspend you for a half a year.
Right. It's optics versus, what's the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is there were no criminal charges brought up, so we can only go so far with this suspension, which means they'll go halfway.
Yeah.
They'll half-ass it a lot. Now,
get into your Dolphins real quick.
Very quickly. Look, here's the thing. The Dolphins basically traded away their Chris Greer outright said fuck them picks, and he gave it all up for Tyreek Hill. And while I don't love Tyreek Hill, the human being, Tyreek Hill, the player, fit a very, very specific need on this team. And you could argue about the logistics of the contract, the dollars. The bottom line is he's a 27, 28-year-old guy still in his prime. The deal is for 4 years. As far as whether or not he plays all 4 of those, I kind of highly doubt. I would think 3 of the 4 he'll play. But those 3 years should be highly productive. Assuming health. And, he traded his draft for that. Now, with the picks that they had, and I'm really only focus on one, because when I went into this, there were a couple of positions I would have liked to have seen them address. The one I wanted to see them address the most was inside, middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that with their third pick, and they took Channing Tindall, an extremely fast middle linebacker from the national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Very happy with that guy. When their pick came around,
it's tough.
He was
going from Georgia, you can pick anybody on those teams, and
he was
like one of fit for
he was one of three guys that I wanted. Two of those three were linebackers. So Channing Tindall and Leo Chenal were the two guys I would have really been very happy with at that pick. Funny is that at the very next pick, I don't know if it was the Niners, whoever picked right after the Dolphins, they took Leo Chenal. So it went Channing Tindall to the Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
Leo Chenal to whoever was the next team after that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you want me to give my grade on the Dolphins, this draft, I'm sorry, I included AJ Brown as part of the Eagles, so I have to include Tyreek.
If that wasn't happened during the draft week.
It didn't happen during the draft week, but I mean, look, the Dolphins had.
I'll let it slide.
I mean, I'll give the Dolphins an A on their draft overall. They had a huge need at linebacker. That was like the biggest. Channing Tindall he has a chance to start. It's not likely.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably still going to be rotational and depth for the time being, but he has a chance just based on his speed alone.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a chance to start. And that speaks to how well the Dolphins did this offseason, was that they didn't have any glaring needs going into this draft. They just didn't. They took care of the offensive side of the ball, and their defense was already really good. And they fortified the defense by bringing back a lot of guys and by making Xavier Howard happy. And you still have one of the better corner tandems in the league, so you had no issues there. And you're deep at corner because your fourth best corner is Noah Igbenogany, who again is not good, but he's a guy that you used a first round draft pick on 2 years ago. And at this point though, he's not really going to see the field a lot. So you're hoping to develop him more with this new staff. But the Dolphins just had no glaring needs outside of linebacker, and they used that pick and they addressed it with to me, a guy who was arguably the best possible guy available at that spot. So I have to give the Dolphins draft in general an A because of that. And then I think the Dolphins did a really nice job with undrafted free agents. There's a number of guys that I think they're going to be very happy with. One of them I think might be a starter next year. So on the offensive line. So we'll, I think it's Deach or Keach is his last name. I can't remember, but he's an offensive lineman. And they actually they signed him, they guaranteed his money. It wasn't a ton of money, but they guaranteed all of it. It wasn't, I think he's a guy that they, he didn't get drafted, but I think is a guy they feel pretty good about. So, yeah, I gotta give the Dolphins an A. They did a great job, and their off season in general just an A+, AA+. I mean, they nailed the off season. They won March and they won April. Typical Dolphins. Now win in when it counts the most.
All right. So
you got to be happy with the Bills. You got the punt god.
Yes.
And you got James Cook, a guy who I liked a lot.
So I am very, very happy with their draft. I feel like every little hole that they had,
which weren't many,
they filled it with a very big. What the heck is going on over here? Shut up.
Shut up, Rich Eisen.
I know. I don't even know where that came from. Anywho. So I was very, very happy with the draft for the Bills. I mean, getting Kyer right out the gate, that's a huge fit. Dude, that guy, he just looks like a stud cornerback. He's quick, he's feisty, he is eager to learn. I loved the clip. So I was watching a clip of him getting drafted, and they, did the phone call with Bean and called him up and got him on the phone. And he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know we traded to get you. We're going to be taking you the next pick." And the guy was like, put the playbook on the plane. Mm-hmm. That was the first words out of his mouth. Playbook on the plane. And then he started crying and was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm ready to work. I'm ready." I'm like, that guy right there has the potential to be the guy who takes over for Tre'Davious White. And that guy right there, because White is still your number one guy. And now you have a legit number two on the other side.
Yeah.
And I am so happy with that fit. James Cook, as much as I wanted a guy that could do it all.
James Cook can do it all.
He's
a good pass catcher.
No. Do it all, like if you need him to carry the ball 30 times. He's not that guy. He's too small. But
yeah, maybe.
he is a great fit for this team. Because you want a guy who can come out and match up against these linebackers or these safeties and burn them, and he can. He's got good hands. He's got incredible quickness and bounce in step. So I am happy with it. I'm not elated with it, but I'm happy with it. Because you know who I wanted. I wanted was it Kenneth
Walker?
Yeah, Kenneth Walker, the third. I wanted him because I felt like he could do the 25, catch in the backfield. He could kind of do it all. But they got James Cook, and I'm very happy with the role. I think that when I was like listening to them talk about it, I was like, you know what? He is a really good fit. That's a really good fit on this team. Hopefully he doesn't have the injury issues as his brother, but as a smaller running back, hopefully he can just dodge all that. But then you had Terrell Bernard, who I feel like he's going to be a special teams guy. He might get in there, but he's really small. So I don't know if he'll end up sticking at the linebacker position, but I think he's going to really be more of a special teams guy. And then I don't know much about Khalil Shakur, but it seems like he's going to be kind of a replacement for McKenzie down the road. That's what they're kind of looking at. Like he is kind of a utility knife. But Isaiah McKenzie is just a different level of that. He is so fast. He's got great hands. He's super tough. Like with all those, it's going to be tough to replace. So he's got big shoes to fill. But then Matt Araiza got
the punt god
in the 5th round, 180th overall, their 5th pick, and I couldn't be happier. I was like, that is amazing. Yeah. They got potentially the number one punter in the league.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's
like in the league.
We'll see.
The league, like he's gonna be that good. And as you look in more and more and more into like if you get into like the nitty gritty of it all, it seems like left-footed punters do better in Buffalo due to the winds and the way that things go. Left-footed putters just do better. So they are really going into the deep numbers of it all, the numbers game. And they went with that guy and who is just got a great foot. And as long as he stays healthy, that should be your punter for several years down the road.
Different spin on the ball too, coming off a lefty's foot could cause some that combined with the wind in Buffalo could cause some problems.
He's got a foot.
Well, we know that.
Yeah,
I mean I can punt the ball like 70 yards.
I mean, it's just, but like it's accurate too. Like it's just incredible.
He can put the ball where he wants. He's called the punt guy.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you don't really get it.
It's like incredible, and I'm very happy. All the holes that were there, the running back position, I feel like could have been a little bit better, but I feel like that's a very good pick. So overall, I would give them probably an A in this year's draft.
They did well.
I loved it, especially with Khair. I'm super excited to see what he has because he's already coming into a number one defensive team, and now they've upgraded at corner, so that should make them even better. And now their special teams is going to be a little bit better with Bernard in there, and obviously with Araiza. Is it Araiza? Araiza? I think it's Araiza. I don't know. But anyway, with the punt god, that's going to it's going to be huge. Anytime you have to punt, you don't have to worry about it. He's going to put the other team in a difficult spot.
Bills aren't a team that are going to punt very often though. So they've got a really good offense but when they do, they've got a weapon. Yeah. Yeah. No, hey. I mean, look, I don't want to get too worked up. It's a punter, but that's a nice addition to a team that didn't have many holes, so.
That's right.
Actually, the Dolphins ended up getting a punter too. Now the Dolphins signed Thomas Morstead, who has been in his entire career in the NFL, has been like a top 10 punter, and the Dolphins got him on a 1-year deal. But then they drafted, I think, his replacement or signed him as an undrafted free agent. I don't recall Heatherby or something like that. I think he was considered to be the second best punter behind Areza. So the Dolphins were thinking long term at that position too, because they've got Morstead on a 1-year deal. So. Let's talk Yankees.
All right. Yankees. Let's go. Sure. Let's get into it. State of the Yankees.
Yeah. The state of the Yankees.
All right. State of the Yankees. Yankees have won 9 of their last 10. And
9 in a row.
I mean, you can't really say much. I mean, I was wondering, I kind of just wanted to hear your thoughts on Aaron Judge's 2-home run day.
Oh, listen, I've ripped Judge a lot. You can't say anything about what he did yesterday. He was clutch. He bookended the Yankees scoring with a solo shot, and then the shot at the end to give the insurance run that I think everyone felt was important, especially like with Aroldis coming in with only a 1-run lead. And of course, Aroldis made it mildly interesting because the Royals had the potential winning run at the plate in the form of Andrew Benintendi, who's leading the league in hitting this year. I love Andrew Benintendi.
He's got a terrible arm, but
he's a guy I would love to have in the Yankees. He would instantly become probably my favorite player in baseball. I'm this close to buying a Benintendi Royals jersey, but I don't want to do it.
35 bombs in Yankee Stadium.
I don't think he's gonna be a Royal long term, because I think he's gonna be some prime trade deadline bait for them.
Yeah.
Especially if he can keep these numbers up. I'm sure the Royals are just like, God, please keep hitting like this. Yeah, listen, man, there's not a lot you can. I mean, okay. They've won 9 in a row. They have the best record in baseball. It's obviously hard to criticize. But if I may, and I will, here are my critiques.
I thought you were going to say something about Aaron Judge, having a chance with the bases like loaded and he freaking check swing.
Oh, and that was obvious. Here's what I will say about that. The moment found him again, and in the moment, he found a weird way to like wiggle out of it without it being an indictment on him. He didn't strike out. He didn't ground into a double play. He hit this check swing ball down the first base line. And look, it got the job done. He got the run in.
That was a little Jeter-esque. Jeter would do something like that from time to time.
But I mean,
just, it's when you put yourself into good positions often,
but
like good counts and stuff like that, you get lucky sometimes.
Here's my point with Judge, though.
The more you practice, the luckier you get.
He still has not given us a definitive, clutch, big moment. I'm waiting for it still, and it's just not there. It doesn't materialize. He gets the job done in like a really unexpected kind of like, oh, look how lucky I got way. But anyways, look.
The insurance arm is good, though.
Here's what I'm going to say about the Yankees. I'm going to sum this up very quick. Starting pitching has been great. Bullpen, amazing. Probably the best pen. Certainly the deepest, I would say, in baseball. It's definitely up there. Here are my problems with this team.
My only problem is, well, not my only problem. My biggest problem, like glaring problem right now, is Aroldis Chapman.
Okay. So that's an issue, but that's been an issue the past few years, so I wasn't even going to bring that up. But here are my big issues with this team. To me, there are still 4 holes in this lineup. Aaron Hicks, Joey Gallo, Josh Donaldson, and whatever this catching platoon is that we have going on. And the problem with the catching part of it, it's not going to get any better, because even when that Rorschach or whatever the hell his name is, guy that they traded for, that muscle-bound guy who's coming back from an oblique injury, the dude was like a 150 hitter anyway, so it's not like that was going to be a big thing. So that's one thing, is those 4 spots in the lineup. Gallo is an absolute albatross. What sucks is that he needs to leave
the Yankees even for himself.
Maybe. You know what the thing is? Like, I don't hate him. He's actually a very likable human being and a nice enough guy. But he can't get it. These are some of these at bats are Chris Davis like.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
It's getting really hard to watch. He's clearly the biggest hole in that lineup because I feel like Donaldson is a pro. He'll get it together. And Donaldson, even though he's not hitting well, he has shown a little bit of a flair for the dramatic. He's got a walk-off hit already. He's been clutch in a couple of spots. So I'm not going to fully rip him. And he still can get on base. The catching platoon, look, it is what it is. I still think it's an upgrade over Gary Sanchez because Gary Sanchez was just an addition by subtraction, in my opinion. So I'm glad. I'm glad he's gone because I just couldn't deal with that shit anymore. But then the other one is Hicks. Hicks is just another guy we're stuck with. And every time Hicks comes up in a big spot, it's a fucking double play. It's 6-4-3, or if he's, it's either 6-4-3 or 4-6-3, depending on which side of the plate he's hitting from. But regardless, he's a disaster. I can't stand him. The only bigger disaster in the lineup is Gallo. And the other two issues I have, team is still not good with runners in scoring position. And the third issue, again, clutch. Can we just get some clutch hits? It's weird. Like they'll kind of get the job done at times. Like they'll get the run in, but they can't like blow a game open. Like Judge had that opportunity yesterday, right? Game was already tied. So he hits the little, check swing down to first base and it gets the lead run in and it's 5-4. But they had a chance to blow that game open there and they did not do it. And in fact, they got no other runs in that inning. You had bases loaded, nobody out. You got one run. And you were lucky to get it. And then Judge gets the insurance run in the ninth, which was big, admittedly. I'll give him that. That was a big home run.
It was.
But that's to me, there are still some issues. Now, I think it's a little bit of an indictment on the rest of baseball that the Yankees have the best record in the league because. But then again, the Yankees the Yankees are playing. They're playing well against poor competition, which is what good teams do. Yeah. Good teams beat bad teams, and the Yankees are doing that.
And they're coming up against the Blue Jays and the Rangers this week.
Right. So this week here, these 3 games in Toronto are huge. They're huge. Not necessarily
they can't
because
get swept.
Get swept.
They should try. I'd be very happy if 2 of 3. I would be probably okay with 1 of 3 as long as the games are as long as they're fighting. I
would be okay with 1 of 3 too because they would still walk out of Toronto in first place.
Yeah. But on top of that, they would, as long as they're fighting. Like I don't want to see a 1 win and like 2 blowouts or something like that. Like I don't want to see that. I want to see close-ish games where they put themselves in good spots. And if they can't get it done because of whatever, because they have 3 or 4 huge holes in their lineup, it is what it is.
Here's the good news. At the moment, the Blue Jays lineup is not hitting very well. So you do have an opportunity to maybe go in there and still catch them a little groggy or sleepy because they're not hitting the ball.
They're young and they, with all the preseason accolades on these guys, they might be feeling themselves a little bit and they're getting knocked back down to the earth a little.
The bad news is the pitching didn't line up so well because you've got Monty, Cortez we trust. And then who's the other guy? Oh, and then Tyone. So yeah, because you lost Cole and Sevy in this last series. So, but look, the Yankees are best record in baseball. Are they the best team in baseball? I don't think so. But I still don't even think they're the best team in the division, for being honest. So
I think they could fight for it, as they are.
I mean, look, I still think I think it's hard to argue. See, the Mets. Man, when the Mets have DeGrom, I just don't know how are you going to beat them in a 7-game series with Mad Max and DeGrom? If DeGrom's healthy, it's going to be hard.
I don't think you can. It all depends. It all depends on how Sevy goes and
you
how
see
Cole
each of those
goes.
Guys.
As Cole and Sevy get through the season, is Cole stepping up to be that ace that you want him to be? Is he's going to separate himself from Sevy? Because that's kind of what you want out of your ace. You want to see separation from your 1 and 2. If
I'm not mistaken, in his last 2 starts, Cole has not given up any runs, right?
I don't know.
I don't think he has. I mean, one of them was a shutout, 3-0 that they won. He went 6 innings and looked pretty decent. That was one of the Tiger starts, I think. And then in the Royals series, the bullpen came up and bullpen came in and gave up some runs, but I think he got through 5 or 6 in that. I feel like he's had
in the last 3 games that he's pitched, he's only given up 2 runs.
Okay. And I think those 2 runs were in whatever that first start would have been of those three. I don't think he's given up any runs in the last two, so he's looked better.
But against bad teams.
So,
which is fine. Again, but I want to see him come in and pitch against someone like the Blue Jays and shut them down.
Right, with their team lineup.
Yeah, I want to see something like that. That's what you want to see. But, it's not going to happen this week. But that's what I want. That's what I'm hoping to see down the road, is seeing a little separation from the 1 and 2. And now, if he's trying to separate and he's pitching out of his mind and he's got a low 2 ERA and he's striking out, 12 per 9, and Sevy is keeping up with him, great. Now you're on par with Max and DeGrom. So now you have 2 studs going against 2 studs. Now it's just lineup versus lineup. Who can manufacture the most runs? As of right now, I don't think the Yankees would be able to do that as well, because they just have too many big holes and too many big swingers in that lineup. And they have to try and address that during this season with the trade. I was happy to see Andujar come in and put the bat on the ball. And
listen, the one thing we know about Miguel Andujar is he can hit at the major league level. Yeah. Where you put him in the field is the big question mark. Right. That's going to be his issue for as long as he plays.
Although luckily for him, with Donaldson's boneheaded double play try yesterday, you might want to throw him at third.
Luckily for Andujar, the National League now has DHs. So there are a lot more job openings for guys like him. That guy can hit at this level.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. Speaking of guys who are going to not currently hit at this level, but who are going to be able to hit at this level. Oh, fuck. So on Saturday, I went up to Worcester, Mass, to see the Woo Sox, the AAA affiliate of the enemy, Boston Red Sox. Nice stadium. It was just built last year. Very nice facility. But I got to watch live and in living color a 6'5", 250+ pound behemoth known as Tristan Casas, who is the Red Sox first baseman of the future. And when I say the future, I mean the very, very near future. Very near future. He will be up by the deadline. That guy, and I know you know this, having played baseball, he's built different. The ball comes off his bat in a way that, dude, first of all, I think I saw him 4 at-bats. What's 3 for 4, all balls were hit extraordinarily hard. This guy hits
just sounds
the ball
and looks different.
Hard. Yeah. Sounds different. You know that sound, that crack that echoes throughout a stadium. That's how it is. Yeah. I can't believe he's actually not on the roster right now, because first base is a need for the Red Sox. Dahlbeck is their first baseman. And I like Brian Dahlbeck, don't get me wrong. Tristan Casas is on a different level. This guy is my God.
It's just like in golf. Like golf and you have these professional hitters.
Sound.
When they hit the ball, there's just a different sound.
Sound. And just so you know, Tristan Casas is a top 20 prospect, by the way. I think he's number 18 overall in Baseball America. So, I mean, he is the Red Sox top prospect. So, anyways, I know we got to move on. So,
I can't really say much more about the Yankees here. The Yankees are playing great. We'll see what happens this coming week. They need to take at least 1 of 3.
Is huge.
They need to take at least 1 of 3. It would be amazing if they could take 2 of 3. I don't see them being able to sweep, but who knows? And then Texas is another one. They should take 2 of 3. They at the end of the week, they should at least
3 and 3.
3 and 3. And you'd be pretty happy.
I'll be happy with that.
Even if they lose, if they get swept, they have to sweep. Something along those lines. You gotta, but you don't want to let the other team build up momentum against you.
You don't want to get swept by Toronto, because it's just a full 3-game swing and then you're down 1.5. And I know at this point we're not watching standings because it's too early for that.
Very early.
But you're going into that series up 1.5 games, leave in first place. That's all I care about. Leave in first place. That means you only got to win 1 game.
16-6 is a very solid start to the season.
No, I mean, listen, I think we all would have signed up for that. I would have been happy with a 500 start, because I don't have a lot of faith in this team. So 16-6 is mind blowing.
All right, let's get into our Wheel of Destiny.
Oh, sure.
Lethal Weapon recast, baby. So we get the Lethal Weapon recast. I'm going to put a little music on in the background. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Yeah, we get a little music action going here.
Set the mood.
Yeah, why not? So, What do we got here? We got...
Okay, can I drop my sort of surprise here? When we spun the wheel last week, it said recast Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
But it didn't specify which Lethal Weapon.
Oh, it's Lethal Weapon. You don't say Lethal Weapon 1, it's Lethal Weapon. Go ahead.
But I think that will make it fun, though, because I went with Lethal Weapon 2. Because Lethal Weapon 2 was probably, I think it might be my favorite in the franchise. I love Lethal Weapon 2. But bottom line is, we're still going to have Riggs and Murtaugh. And I think we both did Leo Getz.
We did, because I just said I wanted to pick the Leo Getz because I needed to get him. I needed to pick him for the future.
Right. Okay. And that was fine. And because my feeling going in was I wanted to do Lethal Weapon 2 because when you think that one of us had Leo
when you
Getz
think of Lethal Weapon in this franchise, you always think of Joe Pesci. He is indoctrinated himself into that franchise as the third head of Lethal Weapon.
Okay. Sure.
So, but I'm saying Lethal Weapon the original. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So you did Lethal Weapon 2, I did Lethal Weapon. All right, so let's start off. We'll do Murtaugh and Riggs to finish it. To finish it off.
Sure.
I'll start off. I'm gonna start off with the daughter. I'm gonna start with the youngest here, and I'm gonna do Ryan Murtaugh, who is, was at times getting her father kind of a little annoyed with because she was attractive and.
She's the one that ultimately marries Butters, right?
Yes.
Oh, aka Chris Rock.
Yeah. So, and the person that I picked, because she was, I think, 27 when this movie came out.
Okay.
Even though she was playing like a teenager or something like that. So who I picked was a young actress. I think she's around the same age. I can't remember exactly how old she is. But the person that I picked, because Tracy Wolf is the person that played her, I picked for the daughter of Murtaugh is Riverdale's Vanessa Morgan. Now, I will be honest. I haven't seen her in Riverdale because I don't watch the show.
I'm going to look her up because I kind of, name is familiar.
But as a young actress who doesn't need a lot of time in front of the camera,
she's pretty.
She's a very pretty girl. I feel like you have to have that because that is part of Murtaugh's struggle with his daughter. Is that she's attractive, and there's a like a bikini scene or something along those lines because she's trying on modeling and things like that, and it kind of gets under his skin, and he gets very angry with some of the people that are in the department. So
that's one of those CW shows, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, the CW, they know how to fucking attract. They know how to cast attractive people. That is their claim to fame. That's why my wife loves the CW because she says it. She basically refers to it as like the network of beautiful people. Yeah. Because they just know how to fucking cast. Yeah. But she's gorgeous, by the way.
Yes.
I've never seen her or heard of her, but wow, yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
What a distraction she would be.
Yes, she's a very, very pretty young lady. I think she's like in her early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
All right. So we will get into yours. Who do you? I don't know if you did Ryan.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. So I'm gonna go.
Do not do Pesci yet.
We're gonna. No. Those will be our last.
That's three. Yeah.
So I'll go with. I was very.
I'll see if I can get a picture of these people and put them on the screen too.
Okay. I was very happy with what I did here with Lethal Weapon 2 because I went with 5 names that I know you're gonna know for the 5 characters that I casted. So let's start with Rika Vandenhaas. Now, Rika Vandenhaas in Lethal Weapon 2 is the South African consulate administrative assistant, essentially, and the one that Riggs, falls in love with, hooks up with in his trailer, the whole thing. She's also murdered by Aryan Rudd's thugs. And but she was a very attractive woman. And
here's my pick for this is Vanessa Morgan. I'm just going to put it on the screen. Go ahead.
Yep.
And then I will get into yours next.
But I wanted to go with somebody who I thought was also very attractive and had, to me, what a sort of kind of a distinguished look and British because that woman was British. Actually, the woman who played Rika Vandenhaas was British, even though she was portraying a South African. Now, don't get me wrong. I wanted to go with Charlize Theron because, duh, she's South African, but a little too old. A little. Don't get me wrong. Still looks.
She doesn't look old.
She don't look old. I could have. I was this close to doing it, but I wanted to go a little younger, and so I went with Daisy Ridley.
Okay.
Because Daisy Ridley, I know she was never meant to really be attractive in Star Wars, but she really is. She's very pretty. That's a very pretty woman.
Yeah.
She really is. And I thought, hey, she kind of, I could see her blonde and like with her hair pulled back and stuff like that. And that was, and even like with glasses, and I could see like a Martin Riggs character being attracted to her.
Okay.
So I went with Daisy Ridley for Rika Vandenhaas.
All right. I'm going to put a picture of Daisy Ridley. I can't find a blonde one, but
yeah, that's probably hard to find, but
there she is.
Still very pretty.
All right. So
I like Daisy Ridley.
Yeah. Oh, she's great.
And you know how I feel about women with British accents. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have cast Emily Blunt, but Emily Blunt's in, like,
also
in her sphere.
Also, yeah, but she's also a little up there.
A little older.
Yeah.
A little, yeah. There's Daisy. Yes.
All right. So we will get into the next one. I'm going to go with Trish Murtaugh. And
very important role.
Yes, it has to be. And I feel like you need someone who can kind of not only, has to be a relatively attractive woman. I think I would say almost most people have to find her attractive. And then on top of that, you need somebody who has attitude too. She's got to have that attitude. She can be able to kind of like take charge if she needs to.
She would have been in her 40s at that point, right? Ish.
She was 49.
Okay, so late 40s.
Yeah, and Danny Glover was only 40 in that role. So
I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna do one on the fly. I've got a choice for this. So
okay.
Go ahead.
I did like how they casted her in the TV show. I thought they did a great job casting.
Yeah, I never watched the TV show, so.
But my selection for Trish in this role is going to be none other than Gabrielle Union.
Oh shit! That was just the person I was thinking of off the fly. Okay.
Yeah.
That was where I was going.
Yeah. So I feel like
okay.
She's got acting chops. She's acted for quite some time. She's good enough in these roles. She has the attitude. She has the skill. She's very beautiful. I feel like it just fits the role perfectly. So those are that's my two picks for the other side of Murtaugh. You don't really get into his other kids very much. They did in the TV show because you have to build up more story. I mean, it's you're talking hours and hours of television as opposed to a 2-hour movie. But yeah, that's who I got. Gabrielle Union as my Trish Murtaugh. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
So, all right.
I mean, that's where I was going.
All right. So we'll just go to the next one. All right.
So.
Okay. Go ahead. Who you got?
So the bad guy in Lethal Weapon 2, you don't even need to say his name. All you have to say is diplomatic immunity. His name was Arjen, Arjen, but pronounced Arjen Rudd. He was an older kind of, South African consulate who just constantly threw that in Riggs' face, the diplomatic immunity. Then he got a trailer dropped on him at the end, which was pretty great. And this is one of my favorite picks because not only did I find a South African guy to play the role, but I found one of the more underrated villains one of the more underrated male casted villains of, I think, our time. You might know him from movies such as G.I. Joe. And you definitely know him as Lord Imhotep from The Mummy. His name is Arnold Vosloo. He is South African, and he's a great fucking bad guy. He has a face made to be a bad guy. Like, if I didn't know any better, and I didn't know who he was, and I saw him on the road, I'd be like, I need to get the fuck away from that guy, because he's clearly evil. Arnold Vosloo was such an easy choice for this, and him being South African was just like the icing on the cake. It was just like, I was like, this, I'm sorry. And the age is right too.
Yeah.
Like the age is right.
Mhm.
You know, like, dude, he's a fucking great bad guy. He's like up there with John Lithgow as like an all-time bad guy. Like, except the only difference is John Lithgow occasionally plays good guy roles, which is weird for him because he's such a great bad guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, Arnold Vosloo as my
All right.
Aryan Rudd.
All right. I like it. I put him on
And
the
then
screen in his mummy uniform, in his mummy getup.
Oh, Lord Imhotep, baby. Imhotep.
All right. So I did. So you have to pick one for my villain, which was Gary Busey.
That is a good shot.
Yeah.
That's a good shot of Vosloo.
Gary Busey is.
How old now? Okay, I want to ask how old Busey was at this stage.
He's 40.
He was 40?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where I had the most difficult time because you kind of have to match Busey's age up with Mel Gibson's age. And I feel like it's kind of tough. It doesn't have to be super close because Busey at that time looked a little younger than he was. And Mel Gibson looked pretty young too. But this was a really tough one for me because like I was like, when I originally started, I was like, oh, there's like a couple of guys who I feel like could do this role really well. And I was like, you have Josh Brolin, Bradley Cooper, but they're all like in their 40s. And I wanted to cast somebody that was younger for Riggs. So I wanted to match them up a little bit better in age. And I was like, I was thinking Michael Shannon again, because, another one, you need the evil villain. You need somebody who's kind of fit and also can like just, handle themselves in a kind of a crazy role. You got to have that look to your face that just shows that you're just next level crazy. Same thing with Riggs. You have to have that look in your face where you're just showing that you're a little tapped.
Yeah.
I was thinking Alexander Skarsgård, that fits the younger, that's a little younger. He's jacked, but I don't know if he has that crazy look. He's got kind of a villainy look at times, but I don't think he's got that crazy look. So I ended up going with Michael Fassbender.
I just was, because I was trying to do it on the fly, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with Fassbender."
Yeah, because Fassbender, I feel like can impose you with his look, with his thing. He can look a little bit tapped.
Yeah.
And all he has to do is just channel that a little bit more. And he's such a good actor. I think he would do that with ease. And so I think he would be a good fit to have
another
fight
good
in the
one,
rain at the end.
I got another good one. He's kind of good looking though. Like he doesn't really fit the. I mean,
So
Fassbender's
is
good looking too though. Charlie Hunnam, I think could pull it off.
I don't think he's got that crazy look.
He might have enough of the crazy in him.
Like Bradley Cooper, you can see him kind of like, his eyes bugging out of his head. Like he did it in Wedding Crashers. He looked like he was like a little tapped. And like Josh Brolin, you could see him. Like there's times you look at Josh Brolin and you're like, he ain't right. But he's such a good looking guy and a talented actor that he could play both sides. So that's I ended up going with Michael Fassbender. That was a tough one. Tough role.
It's a great choice. That's a great choice.
All right.
You know who else would be good is Colin Farrell.
He's just too old.
He's 45.
I know. But I'm looking, my actor for Riggs is going to be like 30 in his early 30s.
Okay. Yeah, my Riggs is 35. So.
Well, that would be closer.
Yeah. And my Murtaugh is.
I mean, my Riggs is also 35.
My Murtaugh's 38.
Okay. Mine, I don't know. I think he's 44.
Okay. I'm very excited about my. Well, are we getting into the big three now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Are we going to start with
He's
Leo
46.
Getz? Who is?
My guy. So I have a few guys, but yeah.
Okay.
How old is he? I feel like he could do a good job. He's 46 as well. Ooh. That might
now
be a better fit.
my Leo Getz is 52. But that makes sense though, because Pesci was older than him, I think. Anyways, all right,
Yep.
I'm ready for the big three.
All right, my Leo Getz is 46.
Okay. It's all right. We're in the ballpark there.
All right. So who do you got? Who do you got for Leo Getz?
This was tough because you need to find a guy who obviously has some personality, charisma, also could really be annoying though, and can play an annoying kind of crawl under your skin kind of guy, and who can sometimes do it with his voice.
Such comedic relief. Got to be such comedic relief.
Right. And there's a guy that I really like. I've always liked him, but he does well in these action role, in action roles as well. And I went with Simon Pegg.
Oh,
Simon Pegg is he's quirky, he's funny. He brought a little of this in a way to like that most recent Mission Impossible movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that. I don't know if you recall. He was actually on, like Tom Cruise's team there.
Mm-hmm. I am very aware.
But I thought he was a guy who could embrace the Leo Getz role. I mean, there's only one Joe Pesci. There's just nobody like him.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Simon Pegg could fill those shoes nicely. I really did. I felt like he'd be a strong candidate for that.
Okay.
And I think because he's in good shape too, so it's not like
you could pick his buddy too. That is in all the movies with him. I can't remember what his name is. He was in Shaun of the Dead. And,
Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. You could pick his buddy. That guy might fit as well. Like those two guys both would be pretty good fits.
How about Johnny Knoxville? Would he be a good fit?
No. So my guy, I'm changing ethnicity. Okay. And I am going to go with the very talented, very funny, and could get under your skin if he wanted to. If that was the role that he was playing, and he's a very underrated actor, but he is one of the funniest on-person screen actors that's out there. Like he just has a great way of either ad-libbing or just working with what he's got, and that is Michael Pena.
Oh yeah, he's so great. I love him.
He is phenomenal. He is so good, and he does such a
good
job in the Ant-Man and the Wasp and all that kind of stuff. Those movies, he does such a good job, and I feel like he could very easily take a very like speaking fast, and being a smooth talker and trying to like do all these different kind of jobs. I could see him fitting into this role.
It's good.
Incredibly well.
Yep, it's good. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You have to do that. At one point, you just have to throw homage.
They fuck you with the cell phones.
Yeah. You have to throw homage.
Which, by the way,
and now you can change that to the metaverse. You can be like, "I fuck you in the metaverse."
Right. But that, by the way, that line still holds up really well because they do still fuck you with the cell phones.
They do.
It's pretty.
All right. So now we have all those people. I'm going to go with the general. I don't know if you did the general.
No. Obviously.
So I did the general, and I had one person and one person only for the general. And that is somebody who I feel like you'd have to make look a little bit older, just a little bit. And that person is the very, very talented. And I could feel him, looking at these guys and giving them kind of looks and being like, come on, dude, you got to work with me here. And that is Sam Rockwell.
Well, Sam Rockwell's great. And he plays a good bad guy too.
Yeah. But he, in the general, like he's kind of above them, and he's just got to like help.
Yep.
He's got to be kind of like, just like, come on guys. Like, what are you doing? He's got to keep these guys under wraps a little.
Yeah.
And I think he just would just do such a good job. He's like he can do anything. He's a chameleon.
He can do anything. He can play. Yeah, you're right. He can play any role. I actually love him in Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. So fun.
Plus, you got to get a scene with him dancing because that's like his thing. He has to dance.
Dancing in everyone.
So you have to get him dancing in the movie at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, right. All right. So now we'll get into the big two, the top two. Get into these quick, and that is we'll start off with Glover. Murtaugh.
Okay.
Who do you got?
Well, this was actually pretty fun for me because I went from one D Glover to another D Glover. I went from Danny Glover to Donald Glover.
Okay.
Because I think Donald Glover would actually be really great in that role. And he is the older of the two. He is 38. But it was funny because I was looking at some pictures of Donald Glover with a beard, and he's got some gray in the beard too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, fuck, like
I'll help you out with that right here with your image.
I think he could play that role. Because, here's the other thing with these two characters is there's comedy involved with these characters, with both of them. And I think that's an important element. I'm not saying that the person has to be a comedian or has to have only played comedic roles, but they have to have that element to them, I think. And really, in the case of Danny Glover's, playing Murtaugh, I think there's that sort of sidekickish, I'm too old for this shit comedy that's in there, and I think Donald Glover could do it really well. Okay. And I would enjoy watching him in that role. So that's my guy.
Okay.
That's my Murtaugh.
All right. So your Murtaugh was, I do like that pick. He was one of the guys that kind of fit for me. And so my problem is here. I went much older. I did go to you are getting too old for this stuff. And I just changed my pick.
You go like Idris Elba, kind of?
I mean, kind of. Okay. Not Idris Elba, but yes, kind of in that. So the guy that I'm picking here has just been in a movie, but he does look older. He looks older. You need somebody, and he's already played a cop in a movie that I like. And that's going to be Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, Jeffrey Wright. I know the name. I got to actually just look him up.
He played Gordon in The Batman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah,
doesn't look super old.
Kind of looks like him. That's good. Yeah, it's a good look.
So he's 56 right now. So that's the problem. So I had such a large list here. I mean, I went from like David Oyelowo to Anthony Mackie, Tyrese Gibson, Idris Elba, Sterling K. Brown, but I was like, they just don't really fit. And then I was like, who do I know that's played a role that's like this? And it's like, oh man, he could do that so well. I could see him saying, I'm getting too old for this shit. I could because he looks a little older. He looks more grizzled. He looks like more of a veteran compared to the guy who we have playing Riggs. And that guy is, what do you got?
All right. So for me, look, this role in its previous occupancy was played by a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is kind of crazy.
Oh man, if we have the same guy.
And he played a crazy guy. And you know what? I feel like this role almost needs somebody who lives a little bit on the edge, who's been maligned, but who has incredible acting chops.
If we pick the same guy.
He is 35 years old. I don't know if your guy is 35 years old.
I think so.
But I could also see him with the long hair. He's got the right kind of look, and he could get himself just a little bit more jacked. Not that you need to be jacked for this role, because you don't, but just a little bit more in shape. But honestly, it's who he is off the screen that compelled me to do it. And that guy is Shia LaBeouf.
Yes!
I knew it.
We both picked the same guy, and look at this picture. He doesn't need to get in more shape.
I bet we even we're looking at similar pictures too. So it'll take a second to pop up.
Yeah, it'll take a second, but
But dude, come on. He's tailor-made for that fucking role. It was made for him. Made for him. Oh yeah, look at that picture. Yeah. Oh yeah, wow. See, that's it. That's it right there. That's good enough shape.
Yeah.
That's absolutely good. It almost looks like a young Mel Gibson with his shirt off.
Yeah.
But can't you see him though with the grown hair?
Yes.
Because I saw some pictures of him with his hair grown out a little bit, and I was like, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
It's Shia.
Yeah.
Perfect age, perfect build. He's nuts, but he's a really great actor.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's because that's who I picked. All right, so
there's really not much else to say, right?
I had all sorts of guys that I feel like you could put in this role. I mean, I had like Tom Hardy, but too old. Oscar Isaac.
Tom Hardy would have been good.
Oscar Isaac, too old. Chris Evans, a little too old, but he could probably play that part. It'd be tough. Dave Franco, another guy who kind of looks a little crazy at times, but just not really the perfect fit.
None of these guys are even close to Shia.
Aaron Paul.
Not even close.
Paul, who's also a little old, but has that kind of crazy look to him. Sebastian Stan's another guy you could fit in there.
Sebastian Stan, maybe.
And I also had Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell in there as well, but he's also.
I like Stephen Amell. Not a big enough name.
Not quite enough, like just the crazy. You need that crazy, that tact, and
right,
Shia has that.
But Shia is that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like he'd almost be playing just like a cop version of himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was built for that role.
Mm-hmm.
I would be disappointed if they made that movie anytime in the near future, if they did like a remake and he wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
Like I would be like, you missed it. You missed the boat because
indeed
he's basically a young Mel Gibson in that sense. So.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
Maybe sods like the anti-Semitic stuff, but we hope.
Yeah.
All right, we got to spin that wheel again.
Yes, indeed. All right, so thank you guys for watching, listening, how you took this in. We were going to spin this wheel real quick. Let me turn this volume up a little.
While you're spinning it, I'm going to say.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
In the words of the great Tony Stark, part of the journey is the end. We've reached the end of the show, but we will be back next Monday to talk a lot of things. Whatever this topic is that we're about to spin right now, we'll talk some Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we'll be coming off another good week. And there probably won't be a lot of NFL news. We did have some breaking NFL news today. The New Orleans Saints signed the Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu. So
good pick.
Good pick. Yes, good pick up for them.
All right, here we go. We're going to spin it.
All right.
Spinning that wheel right now. Why isn't this thing popping up? There we go. Hello.
Hello. Oh, wow. Oh, I thought you actually had it. I thought it was OFN Will Smith movies. I was going to.
What's it doing?
Mount Rushmore of worst movie sequels. You've been wanting this one. But you spun it, and we got it.
What do we get?
And I like worst movie sequels.
Oh, all right, cool.
Mount Rushmore of worst movie
it's
sequels.
not letting me get back to the thing.
What? I've seen it multiple times. So.
I know it keeps the thing keeps popping up. It won't close it out. I don't know why. So we're doing Mount Rushmore of worst movie sequels. All right.
This should be fun.
All right, I like that.
And remember the rules. It has to be the direct sequel. It can't be like it can't be like Jaws 3 or Jaws 4. It's got to be like if you wanted it to be a Jaws movie, it's got to be Jaws 2, which obviously will not end up on my list.
Freddy Krueger 2, Jason 2,
Street 2, right.
Halloween 2.
By the way, nobody would pick Friday the 13th Part 2 because that's arguably the best one. So that's the one where Jason actually shows up. So
it could be, like Lord of the Rings 2. I'm trying to
no
think of movies.
way.
I'm trying to think of movies that have multiple years.
That's my
Harry
favorite.
Potter
The
2.
Two Towers is my favorite.
I'm just thinking of movies that have multiple movies. That's all.
Revenge of the Nerds 2.
It could be Avatar 2 whenever it comes out.
Could be. Titanic 2. Oh,
Nope. Superman 2.
Fuck no, that's the best one in the series. It's the Richard Donner. The Richard Donner cut is elite level Superman.
Batman 2.
Batman Returns, you mean?
That was a good movie.
No way.
It's a good movie.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. All right. Could be Lethal Weapon 2.
No, absolutely not.
I'm just saying it's a sequel. It's not the fourth movie or the third.
You're naming all pretty decent ones, right?
Because that's the only ones that I like. I'm not going to say
I'm
not going to say Anchorman 2 because that's obvious. That's a bad one.
Could be on there.
The
Godfather Part 2 will not be on the list.
I'm not going to say Caddyshack 2 because those are really bad movies.
I actually like Caddyshack 2.
It's bad.
I know it's bad. I wouldn't put it on the list though. It's a guilty pleasure for me. Terrible.
A lot of movies that they dropped the ball.
It's like bone-shakingly bad.
G.I. Joe 2. Although I don't hate it.
Actually, that one was better than the first one.
Yeah, I don't hate the second one.
No.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, taking this however you took it in. Thank you. And we will see you guys soon. Very soon.
Stay classic, Land Club.
Yeah. And we are out. Like sauerkraut. Smash that subscribe button. Yeah. Hit that like. Tap the notification bell. Whoop whoop.
Worst movie sequels, man. That's gonna be. There's a lot of choices. The choices that are out there.
Peace out.
Oh, we were still live?